Welcome to the Dr. Leadership Show, where we take a look at how you approach your work and personal life and how we can make the most out of both of them. A weekly get-together where we get real about self-improvement and development as we all make this not-so-easy journey through life. Our discussions will cover ideas and concepts from how to grow your career to how to lead your family towards prosperity and happiness. We don't pretend to know it all, and the doctor is the first to be vulnerable, discussing his own weaknesses, both past and present. This is about growing together and having some fun while we discuss what is happening in the crazy world we live in and how to make the most of it. Let's strive for awesome together. Let's get after it. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Dr. Leadership Podcast. Hope you're having an awesome week. Happy Wednesday if you're listening today. Remember, members got access to this quite some time ago, and you can jump out there and join, and I'll touch on that in a minute. Hope you had a great week. Great playoff football this last weekend. Hopefully your teams won. We got the Super Bowl coming up. We'll see what happens. Not going to say anything on that because the games haven't happened because I'm recording that this weekend. Got some great guests coming up over the coming weeks. My wife and I are making another vacation jaunt. We're going over to Portugal for a couple weeks, and so I've got a bunch of things teed up so I can release those while I'm gone. And when I say big guests, I mean big guests. So first of all, I got a guy named Jim Carlaw coming on. He's a magnificent leader in the healthcare space, been doing it for a long time. He'll be coming on to tell his story and to discuss concepts from his best-selling book, The Six Pillars of Effective Leadership, A Roadmap to Success. Met with Jim this week. Absolutely awesome guy. Great background. Unbelievable story. Lost a brother in Vietnam. Actually, a sad part of the story. He'll touch on that a little bit. But coming on the show here in a couple weeks. Following that up, may release them in different order, not sure. I've got Dr. Rob Leone, who's a PhD professor at Idaho State, and he's a principal of Black River Performance Management. He's a man who has written some great content around mindset and accountability. He'll be joining us in the next couple of weeks as well. It was funny, we were talking. He actually lived in Des Moines for a little bit, where I live. He actually went to Drake University for a little bit, where I graduated, was there at the same time my wife played ball. So we had some connections there, telling some funny stories about sliding around on the ice and such that he didn't really like. Man, I'll tell you what, when we talked, he's got one badass house and looking out over the mountains out in Idaho. There was a little bit of envy going on there. Just beautiful place. Rob, looking forward to talking to you. After that, I've got Eric Charon coming on, and he's a seasoned corporate leader and keynote speaker. He's coming on to launch his brand new book, Have You Ever Had a Boss That? ... Cutting edge new book to help yourself grow. Looking forward to having Eric on. A great concept. The book's getting released either the week right before, the week right after we discuss it. So depending on the timing of release of the show and his book, we'll be talking about that. Very excited about that. And finally, a big one here, a huge guest, Miss Cynthia Pong. She's founder and CEO of Embrace Change. That's an organization who guides women of color into influential leadership roles. Very excited to get her feedback and her topics on this expertise that she has in this space. It's very important that our communities look like our communities as long as it's merit-based, right? I want everyone to have the fair shot, so it'll be interesting to have a conversation with Cynthia. Very excited to have her on the show. We're meeting here this next week in the evening, just do a little pre-planning, and very excited about it. So, excuse me, everybody. Still fighting a little bit of that. I sound a lot better this week than I did last week, though. Man, last week, struggling through it. Remember, you can get access early. All you got to do is go to our website at www.drleadershipresults.com. Click on subscribe. All of our former episodes are there. Of course, you can find all the episodes on Apple, on iHeartRadio, on the YouTube channel, on Spotify. There's 50 other places you can go and get this stuff. Google it. Google a topic, put DR Leadership in a topic. Up comes an episode. We're 150 deep now with great guests over the last 2.5 years on the Leadership Lounge. That's where we have these experts come in. Those 4 guests I just mentioned will be coming on as well. And then also, if you want to give some feedback, attaboy, attagirl, didn't like that, don't like that, shut your mouth, you're stupid, whatever you want to say, I don't care. You can hit me up at my email, and that's drleadershipresults@gmail.com. So, hey, we're jumping back in here. So, net, first of all, with those guests, the Dr. Leadership Podcast is is resonating across all types of people and industries. And I'm so excited to have these experts on. Very, very blessed over the last several years to get this thing going and building a listening group, etc. But now let's move on to today's topic. So on today's topic, last week we covered the impacts of inept leadership. And I was fired up. I'm still fired up. I'm fired up in a positive manner now. But we covered that ongoing disaster in California and the terrible impacts and the lack of support in western North Carolina following the hurricanes in September. Yes, September is when that happened. And the Dr. L show is not a political show. I think everyone understands where I fall on the political scene. If you don't know, I'm just right of center. I'm not way right, but I'm certainly not anywhere close to left of center. I am to the right of this, and it's really comes down to just I want people to be self-accountable. I want people to make their own way. I don't think there's any victimhood out there and things, and I just disagree with some of the basic concepts as soon as you get pretty far left. But this isn't anything about these last two episodes isn't political. It's just that the new administration coming in has put an unbelievable spotlight of compare and contrast on what bad looks like and what good looks like. Now, there's going to be mistakes. There's no doubt. I don't like everything that's going on in the administration, but whoo! Now, remember this. Emotional intelligence is more important than intellectual coefficient. EQ is more important than IQ. Look up the past episode from Dr. Leadership on that. So if you're easily triggered simply by good things happening when your team is not in charge, then I suggest you find another show today because you're probably not going to like some of the things I'm going to point out. If you want to look at things realistically and score on actions and outcomes, hold on tight. That's what we're here about, right? Let's face it, results matter. Excuse me again, I apologize. So I am calling this episode, The Pace of Success Follows the Pace of the Leader. Hear that again. The pace of success follows the pace of the leader. What has happened in less than 1 week in the United States is simply incredible to watch. It'll be studied for millennia. I mean, it is simply unbelievable. We don't have to like all the decisions, but what is important is that actions and follow-through on promises is happening at a breakneck pace. What the overwhelming majority of people voted for, electoral landslide, popular vote landslide in comparison to anything over the last 40 years. Reagan was the last one that won popular and electoral to this. Actually, that did both. And the Reagan years, predominantly very good. There can be armchair quarterbacks go back. What about? And grand scheme of things, man, defeated the Cold War, put the Soviet Union out of business, tore down the wall, built the economy up from the most disastrous, up until recently, presidential administration ever. And what has been happening at a breakneck pace. So a focus to merit and results has been put back on the forefront, and a focus to anyone can have the job as long as they're qualified is in the forefront as well. We discussed how the California leaders are completely inept. I mean, there's just no doubt. I mean, you can like the way they look, you can like the way they talk, you can like the way they shimmy and they interact with the Hollywood elite, and you can like all that and feel that, hanging out with influencers is really cool and all that. And if you're young and if you're, 20, 21, 16, 14 years old, that stuff's important to you because you have no concept of reality. That's okay. But these people are inept and unable to solve problems and unable to prevent big problems. They're interested in kowtowing to that narrative versus serving the citizens. So this week, our new president, President Trump, he visited North Carolina and California. Both visits were a masterclass in pushing pace and results and no excuses. He's different this time. Again, not saying for or against here. There's a calm, and there's a confidence. There's also a little bit of, told you so. You listening now? A little bit of that going on too. But think about North Carolina here for a minute. As I said a few minutes ago, that hurricane and storm was in September. Sorry, just muted myself as I coughed. U.S. citizens, so storm is in September. U.S. citizens still, some of them, don't have clean drinking water, don't have a place to sleep under cover. They're living in tents on the ground when this cold storm that just dropped, 14 inches of snow outside Pensacola, Florida, and temperatures unbelievably cold. You go further north, western North Carolina, the Appalachians and that area over in eastern Tennessee, very, very cold. First of all, you're 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 feet. You aren't at sea level. So you're talking some places sub-zero weather. FEMA actually kicked out 2,000 residents, and I say residents, 2,000 citizens, out of trailers into the bitter cold because they didn't want to fund the trailers anymore. We're out of money. Well, the new administration, you know what they did? Think of this leadership. What they said is, okay, immediately, all foreign aid is on hold, except Israel and Egypt, and that's due to fighting the terrorism cleanup over there. And all this is on hold, they said, for 90 days, but until North Carolina and California have enough money and resources at their disposal to provide and protect our own damn citizens. Why would we send aid to anyone when our own population is not cared for? Why would you go down and get on a GoFundMe site to help somebody that's lost a loved one if your kids don't have a roof on their heads? No, you wouldn't. So why do we pretend? And it's also this money, it's all being taken out of the pockets of our own people. In the last week, this new leadership focus to taking care of our future and well-being has taken us out of the business of supporting everyone else. And in fact, think of this, has brought in over $2 trillion in outside investment commitments to build in the United States. I'm not even talking about the AI data centers, which was U.S. money plus Japan money with the banking group. And there's some talk they don't have the funding for that. That isn't how all that works. They will collect the capital. They will make it happen. There's one already halfway built in Texas. The money's coming. Saudi Arabia says $600 billion. I bet it ends up being $1 trillion. Oh, we're going to let them participate? They were part of the 9/11 deal. Yeah, there was some culpability there. It ain't going to happen on Daddy Trump's watch. Let's get some money from him. He's also going to drive oil prices down with him. These people are listening because he carries the Teddy Roosevelt approach. Speak softly, carry a big stick. He's speaking loudly right now. We're not going to be taken advantage of anymore. The U.S. can no longer borrow on the backs of its U.S. citizens to fund other people's problems. It's money laundering at the best case scenario. I mean, the Pentagon can't pass an audit, and they say, well, that doesn't mean we spent the money wrong. It just means you can't tell me where you spent it. I don't know if it's conspiracy theories or what, but over in Ukraine, tell me the price, where's the money? I hear that Zelensky's wife's got several very nice cars. Why? The cities are gone. Now we're going to have to invest to rebuild Ukraine? We need to rebuild Western North Carolina. We need to rebuild our infrastructure. We need to rebuild California. Let's let others show up and hand out and help. This is just getting started, folks. This is going to be a masterclass in a redistribution approach. People are going to have to solve their own problems before we help. The United States will always help. But you got to have some skin in the game. Now let's touch on the PACE conversation here in Southern California. Those state and local leaders in that press conference this week look like fools, saying, we hope that since we don't agree with you politically, you wouldn't keep money from your citizens. All that is being said, that is a complete projection and that's a bullshit line. What is happening is the administration is saying, until you fix the problems that will simply lead to another bad fire next year where you can't respond and burn it all down again, we're not going to invest at the level you want until you agree to make changes to how you are environmentally protecting your cities. Clear the brush, controlled burns, get water to appropriate levels. I'm not talking about if you can turn on a spigot up north or not. I'm just saying you better have 1 billion gallons of water available in LA and surrounding area, not 2 million like they had in the tanks for the Palisades. We touched on that last week. Give it a listen. Listen to the math. Then you know these people don't know how to do anything. They look like fools. Trump asked, why aren't we letting people back in their homes so they can start cleaning up? They can start to rebuild. The mayor says we need to keep them safe. Well, there's nothing left to burn. You're going to have to get a tetanus shot and go in and start tearing shit down. They are safe. In the grand scheme, here's what I do. You want to know what I would do? If I had all the power and I was the governor and the president, here's what I would do. I would call Waste Management, and I would say, I need 10,000 dumpsters here in 3 days. I would contact the local garbage organizations and say, I want 24-hour-a-day pickup and cleanup starting tomorrow. Get your labor set right. If it's union-based, you get the union leaders in here and you say, listen, I am going to destroy you if you don't step up and do what's right for the community. All in for all in. I would say I need 1,000 trucks to haul debris tomorrow. I would contact Lowe's, Menards, Home Depot, and others and say we need raw materials by the millions of tons. I want trains full of lumber, cement brick, concrete, nails, screws, fireproof shingles, stucco, steel rebar, steel beams. I would say you get it here. And the reason you get it here is because Joe Biden's administration, God bless him, said 100% guaranteed we're going to cover the expense of the U.S. government for the first 90 days for cleanup and to start the construction. You will get paid. It will be paid. Get the pace up. The mayor said maybe next week people can go to their homes. Why a week? Week's a long time when you were sitting there and you can't go and even look for your stuff. Why can't they go today? It's the other thing you do. All permits, so I used to build homes. I can tell you I can do this. All your permits for basic surveys, architectural approval, at current build standards need to be adjusted back 10 years. And what I mean by that is we weren't building bad homes 10 years ago. We just weren't being held to incredibly stupid and ludicrous standards that slow the pace down. I don't need to know how many fire ants I displace when I build to put the footings in. Put the footings in. They need to go back 10 years. Get construction crews going. Here's the next step I'd do. You contact, and none of these are in any order because they aren't participating. I would contact Pulte Homes, D.R. Horton, Toll Brothers, others, the 10 biggest construction home builders in the country. And I would say, we will give you the contracts for 30,000 homes at a fixed cost plus margin of 10%. Get your teams here tomorrow. You design up, and those that are super wealthy that want to do custom builds out the tailpipe, because see, all those homes, I've had a couple of those homes. They do semi-custom. They're beautiful homes. They're built to the same standards. And if you want to pay upgrades, you pay upgrades. 10% margin. Same for the raw material providers. Lowe's, Home Depot, we're doing this for our country. Let's go. The government then could give out 20,000 H-1B visas, those work visas, with background checks for laborers, hourly rate fixed at $30, $35, whatever it needs to be. This is not hard. Get 20,000 laborers in there, start laying footings, start laying all of your drain lines for water, start building retaining walls. The other thing I'd do is I'd say every lot's got to be 25, 30 feet wider. And you got to put a barrier, no shrubbery, no nothing, each one. Edges of neighborhoods need to have 100 yards around each of them. Do some simple things. Get the laborers going there. This is not hard. Think of how quickly in World War II, if you don't know it, look it up. In World War II, we unleashed the power of the American spirit. Get the bullshit out of the way. We went from the bombs dropping on December 7, 1941, on our heels, to building thousands of planes a week. Thousands of planes into the Europe theater and the Pacific theater a week. Hundreds of tanks a week. Railroad cars going. Ford retrofitted and was building military vehicles in 48 hours. General Motors retrofitted and was building military infrastructure products as well in hours. See, what we need to do is we need to just turn each other in the face and go, if you don't do it, we're going to shut you down. Sorry. This is about taking care of the American people. We need construction generals on the ground. We need to have people that understand it and can drive big construction projects. There's nobody better to lead an administration right now than Trump. You can love him, hate him, but the guy knows how to build a project under budget and on time. I'd send his family in and say, guess what? New sheriff's in town. This is how we're going to build this stuff. You could rebuild Pacific Palisades in 36 months. The entire community. 36 months. They're talking 25, 30 years. You know why? Because they're inept. They don't know how to do this. Get the National Guards involved. Every state, rotate 5 states at a time on 60-day rotations. They need to do their annual training anyway. Bring in 5 states at a time. Everybody gives 2,000 National Guards out of their states. First 5 states come in, you got 10,000 National Guardsmen that help do what? Debris clear, infrastructure reload, logistics. They can handle getting the products where they need to go. That's what they do. They move our entire Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines from here. Remember in Desert Storm 1? We moved 900,000 troops with other countries involved and 70% of our military might in 65 days to take out Baghdad. You think we can't get trains of lumber and housing started? It's because bureaucratic crap is in our way. Inept leadership is in our way. The inability to understand pace. They don't care. They didn't lose their house. They don't care. They're trying to hold a narrative so that they can run for government. Get them out of the way. Let's go. See, success is about standing up and demanding action. It's not about words. This is true in business. This is true in your home life. Set expectations, hold people accountable. When things don't go right, you adjust, tack the ship. These government bureaucrats could not survive in the real world. So time to get them out of the way. There'll be time for them to come back in and try to give feel-good stories and try to raise money and grease the hands of their friends and back pay and kick back and give power to all those. Now's not the time. We got American citizens that are living on the streets. Then I'd take the same approach to the drug problem, the housing problem. I talked about this 3 weeks ago. Think of that again. $24 billion was spent by California to fight the homeless crisis. They had 150,000 homeless people when they announced the $24 billion. They've spent the $24 billion in about 30 months. Their population of homeless is now 180,000. They're so good that they spent $24 billion to add 20% more homeless people. They were trying to take it down. You know what you can do with $24 billion? You can build $350,000 condos or apartments. Make them all 3 bedrooms. 3 people times 65,000, that's 195,000 people you can house. Again, you get the big construction companies, Lowe's, Menards, all these people, Beiser Lumber, all these different, these international companies, Nippon Steel, you get U.S. Steel going. You just say, listen, we're going. It's going to be paid for. The government's going to give the money. It's going to be handled. Mortgages are going to take care of it. Insurance is going to take care of some of it. When you spread this across the entire economy and put it on the hips of those that can get it done, it will be the smallest bump that we can possibly make. It's going to be expensive. There's no doubt. But guess what? Not every house is going to have a swimming pool right away. You got to get the structures up. Then if they want to build pools and shit like that, have at it. But you got to go after this thing. There is no time like the present to get very aggressive about this. And again, the pace of success is determined by the pace of the leadership. The administration is taking no prisoners. Same thing happened on immigration. We got C-130s, C-117s in the air. We've gotten nearly 2,000 murderers, rapists, and severe criminals out of the country in 4 days. 4 days. Just imagine what that number is going to be 365 days from now. We're going to have 40, 50,000 criminals out of this country that were welcomed with open arms. Some of them, we hired private planes to fly them in. See, the pace of that leadership was on how to destroy the country. We're using pace to ensure the survival, the growth, and the benefit of our country. Same thing holds true in your business life. Same thing holds true in your personal life. If you've got a problem at home, if you've got a child that has something going on psychologically, physically, you got to lean in and you got to attack it. You can't just cover your eyes and say, well, it'll be better next week. You've got to go with pace. Anything that is good in this world needs to be run like a 2-minute offense right now. It is no huddle time. It is time to put our friggin' chin down, strap on the helmet tight, and show the world what America is all about. Let's be awesome. Keep that shit up. Talk next week.